Hey guys, this is Kenny over at Learn How to Prosper. And today, in this installment of the purpose hypothesis, which is something that if you want to see the entire presentation, you can go over to purpose.learnhowtoprosper.com or learnhowtoprosper.com/purpose, whichever way you want to do it. I'm giving you options. So today, I am talking about something that I hope resonates with you. It certainly has been the case with me, is that uh, if you've ever felt like you're destined for something better, or if you've ever felt like even though your life has been a bit of a challenge or didn't hasn't played out exactly as you thought, have you still felt like you really do have something special to offer the world? And even though there doesn't seem to be a lot of external evidence to that fact at this point, or maybe there has been, you just know that for whatever you've accomplished till now, there's something even greater. And that's something that I really want to emphasize today because I believe that with every fiber of my being, that every one of us, regardless of who you are or even what kind of a dumpster fire your life you feel like it may have been up until this point, that in and of itself may have been the qualifying factor to bring you to this point. And what's fascinating to me is you may not uh, you may not believe it, or you may not have believed that in the past, but I'm going to invite you to believe it, because the very act of believing it is now going to open up to you a much clearer path for how you can obtain the very vision or realize the true potential that you have for your unique mission, your unique purpose on this life. Now, I think everyone shares a macro purpose. I'm not going to go into that today, other than to say, listen, we lived before we came here. We developed a personality. We developed a lot of things that now has defined to some extent who we are. Now we come into this life, we have a body with a physical body. There's so much more that we're prepared to learn. Think about it. You have to learn how to uh, master your appetites. You get to learn how to apply discipline. Yeah, you can grow in ways that you couldn't grow before. And all that's part of the grander purpose, but you can see the full presentation to learn more if you'd like to. That's in the link of the description box. Um, but in addition to that grander purpose, each of us has our own individual mission to help with the grander purpose. So while the universal purpose is the same for everyone, to grow, to become, to love, your specific mission is uniquely yours. And these missions are not at odds with the greater purpose. Instead, our individual missions are the specific ways we help our brothers and sisters understand and achieve the greater purpose together. Isn't that amazing? That could be anything. Like your purpose might be to be a teacher. It might to be a business owner. It could be to be a not not that you're defined by your work per se, but it's I'm just calling out some specific things. Um, and I'm just going to pop here to this next page because your life has been giving you clues, and I'm going to invite you to look back over the purpose, the past of your life, and think about what some of these clues might be. And these are clues as to your unique and individual mission. And if that hasn't become completely clear, I don't want you to become discouraged, because that's pretty common. In fact, I would say most people, maybe the majority of people, don't believe that they're chosen or called to something very special. In fact, think about it. I've talked in other podcasts here about how there isn't an adversary, an opposition. And if there is an opposition, wouldn't that opposition want you to be lost and frustrated and disoriented? So the default action in a fallen world is disorientation, depression, these types of things. You have to overtly choose and decide to take a different path to put that behind you. If you just take the path of least resistance and just allow life to just wash over you the way that it will, then of course you're going to be tumbled and pushed and um, in all the different ways that can happen. So if you've been in that position where you just feel like, wow, I don't feel like I've done anything special, I've been anything special, but I really feel like I could, then you're in the right place. And if you don't believe that, I'm just going to invite you to just do a simple binary thing. Choose. Just choose. You can decide. You can literally decide right now that no, I choose to believe, and then I'm going to act on that belief. And you know what happens as you act on a belief over time? You start to see evidence of the thing that you believed. And then as you collect more and more evidence, that now becomes a strong faith. It's like, well, not only do I believe it, now I'm experiencing it. Now I have faith that that's true. Although the full outcome or result has not been realized, there's evidence of things unseen that you're working toward, and you're seeing that unfold in your life. One of the ways to do that is to look back and look at the gifts that you've been given. And these can be sometimes, I know the world looks at kind of a set of gifts like beauty and athletic talent and things like that. Maybe you're a great musician. But there are gifts that are equally powerful that are not as maybe overt or visible, and those are any of a myriad of things. Maybe you have a special empathy. Maybe you have a ability to understand and communicate. Maybe you have the ability to trust and to help without any need for any uh, recompense of any kind or any payback, if you will. Um, so look at the different gifts that you have, and it's probably a good idea to sit down and just write them out. Like, what are the gifts that you have? How about desires? What's been placed upon your heart? What things keep coming back to you again and again and again? Like maybe you just love to read about psychology, or maybe you like to read about the formation of the physical body and the brain and the way the heart works. These may be desires that are giving you clues that are guiding you toward your special purpose. How about the experiences you've had? And this is one where I think a lot of people vastly underestimate the importance of even the most ardent difficulties in your life are a part of the experience that are preparing you and guiding you towards your higher mission. So, for example, when I was, since I have an identical twin, so I'm throwing him under the bus here too. But we, uh, when we were in the second grade, we got held back and did the second grade again. And I just remember what an immensely difficult thing that was. And the way it was set up at our elementary schools, they had each grade was a building. And I remember we were over, here we've been in the second grade building, and the next year, everyone we'd gone to school with for years are over at the third grade building, and we're standing in line at the second grade building. And I remember them literally saying, "Hey, you guys, what are you doing? No, you're not there. You're over here. You're over here in the third grade now." And we're like, and I just remember someone saying, "What?" And we're like, "No, we're doing it again." Like, "What? Are you dummies?" And it was really interesting because, at least for me personally, and for years, people would remember that, right? All the way through high school, people remember, "Oh, yeah, I remember Bunnell. Yeah, he got held back. He must be a dum-dum head." And so I started to bring on some of that, and it kind of, I guess, incited in me a way to prove to others that I wasn't a dum-dum head. So for me, I got involved in student government. I got involved in sports and a lot of other things, scouting, and I really endeavored to excel in those things, track. And now looking back, I see this whole thing, and I'm actually grateful that I got held back. But for years, that was a real, I guess, thorn in my side, or something difficult that I felt like I had to carry and deal with. But in reality, it was a great blessing because it ignited within me a desire to prove myself in certain ways. And as a result, I've grown, and then of course I've overcome that. It's not just about proving myself, although it's still there. I mean, I want to excel. I want to do well in my business. I want to do well in my work. I want to do well in my church activities. And it's always been, I want to do well as a father and as a grandfather and as a husband and as a sibling. It drives me. I want to be the best that I can be. And so I'm grateful for that experience. So think about not even so much the things that maybe went well, but maybe even more importantly, the difficulties that you've had, and see how they've helped shape and form you. Because one day, let's say, and I have three siblings that are visually impaired due to uh, a genetic, I wouldn't call it a disease, but a condition. And so they've lost most of their eyesight. And I'm just so impressed with how they adapt to live in a world that is all arranged for sight. And in so many ways, they've had to develop other parts of themselves, right? Which has made them more effective at communicating, more effective at listening. And someday when we pass from this step to the next step, they're going to have their vision plus the character that they built on top of all that they get to take with them. And that's true for every one of us. Regardless if someone's born without an arm or a deformed part of their body, they have to adapt in certain ways to accommodate for that. And now they're just that much stronger and that much better. And so if you look at it from the proper perspective, it becomes a blessing to you. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why, we have a cycle of life. We come into this life young and idealistic and strong. You get into your middle years and you're just hitting your stride. And then, you get towards your latter years, and then, now you get to deal with the humility that comes with slowing down. And now you want to apply your wisdom and help the world in a different way. And then, you take that into your next step, which is probably not a bad thing, that you enter your next step a little more humble, wise. And obviously I think we're going to be represented as our ideal selves, physically, both as a spiritual being and then later as a resurrected being, which we will all have that incredible blessing in our lives of being resurrected. And think about it this way, that what if you truly knew that everything that you were learning in this life and achieving and growing and everything that you had done would be added to you, and you would be taking that with you with that next step, instead of just like hitting some kind of weird cosmic reset button and it just all goes away. I can tell you with an exceeding degree of conviction that you do get to carry this stuff with you. It just makes sense. It just makes complete sense. And while I know that there's a lot of nihilism and a lot of pessimism and a lot of hatred, you can choose to turn away from all of that. And as you turn away from it and point towards your mission and the more important things you have to accomplish in this life, that those things will literally fade into the background because you no longer give them power. You no longer look at those things. You're focused instead on your unique mission. And that's my call. That's what I felt called to do. And that's why I'm doing this. And so I'm giving you an invitation, a pleading to decide. It's really only that difficult. Just decide. Number 4, what are the opportunities that have come your way? Both difficult, because sometimes you have to reframe opportunities. What challenges, what things came along that you didn't expect? Maybe you never expected to be divorced. Maybe that was never anything that you saw, that you didn't expect that your child would pass. Maybe you never expected that you would lose your job. Maybe you never expected to get this condition or this disease. But if you can look into those and lean into it as something that can build and grow you and give you experience that you can then use to even further the mission further and help other people even more, because other people are probably at another path coming right behind you, and you can turn around and lend a hand. And the final thing I'm going to say are just promptings. Everyone's had this. Sometimes I was talking to my nephews the other day about deja vu. I've been here. I felt this. I know this is right. This is what I'm supposed to be. Or, no, this is what I should be doing. Or even more importantly, I think sometimes they're just ideas or impressions that come into your mind, thoughts, and you're just so inspired by it. And you think, man, I hope that's true. Well, you can decide that it is true. Because the other secret thing about this whole journey is that anything that is guiding you to do good, inspiring you to be better, that comes from our source, God, who I can confirm to you is real and loves you and wants you to succeed and has a mission for you and a purpose. And I think if you could catch even a glimpse of the magnitude of the full eternal spectrum of your life, you would see that you're probably millions of years old. You have all this experience. You have all this, everything that brought you to this point. And I just would say, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Don't say that there's not anything more, because there absolutely is something more. And I hope that you feel that in your heart. I hope that you will endeavor to follow this. If you want to learn more, you can go over to learnhowtoprosper.com/purpose. And there are ways for you to hear this full presentation, learn more, and become a part of this community. I mean, I'm not going to suggest that I'm just getting started on a long journey. I look at putting another 30, 40 years into this, and who knows what the world will be like at that time, but I'm going to do my best. And I want to leave this as a legacy to my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, that they can see, hey, that's what Grandpa believed. That's what he was striving for. And hopefully they'll see it in the fruits of my larger life, just as yours are going to see it in the fruits of your life. And why not? I mean, you can choose. You don't have to choose to be, in spite of difficulties and challenges, just reframe them as something that's truly a blessing for you and a purpose. And you can do that because it is. It literally is. So I hope that inspires you a little bit. I hope you can look at that in new ways, and that you can become a new and a better person, and that I can be a part of your journey. And that would be my greatest wish and dream come true. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Look forward to talking to you again here tomorrow with a new installment of the Purpose Hypothesis. And you can go see my hub over at learnhowtoprosper.com if you want to see about some of my other projects and things that I'm doing. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much, guys and gals. Bye.